All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'll call the water board meeting to order. Excuse me. Brenda, would you take the roll for us, please?
Councilmember Anderson. Board Member Brisky.
Present.
Board Member Freeman.
Present.
Board Member Mercier. Board Member Ridley.
Present.
Board Member Roth.
Present.
Mayor Sierra. Councilmember Woodward.
Present.
Vice Chair Habernick.
Present.
And Chair Moore.
Present. All right. Move on to the approval of the minutes from the May 10th meeting. Can I get a, sorry, can I get a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Corrections? Okay. Just a reminder before we vote, we're just to play completely by the rules. Just I think if you weren't at the meeting, or for I guess substantially all of it, it's probably best not to. Probably just best to abstain. So I'll ask for all in favor. Say aye.
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 Objections? And then abstentions. Actually, Brenda, I'm probably not giving you enough detail. How do we want to handle this so you can accurate? I'm not sure we gave you enough information to get an accurate count.
Well, the ones that are not able to vote on the minutes should be Board Member Freeman and Board Member Woodward.
I did it. I was present but late.
That's true.
Jim, were you there? Let's see, were you there for all the action items?
Not all the.
We're in kind of new territory. Okay. Kind of a new territory. Why? I think we've got enough to pass it. So let's just, I'll suggest we abstain for this one, if that's okay.
Okay.
Marjane, same thing.
Yes, I was present, but I was late. And so, but I since I'm a newbie, whatever decisions you are making, I have trust on that capability. So whatever you choose to do that, please let me know and I'll follow through with that. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, all right. We'll just take the unanimous vote of the board members short of those two abstentions. Does that work, Brenda?
Yeah, we can move ahead.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, we're just getting our footing on that little step. All right, we've is there any public forum tonight?
No, there's no public forum tonight.
Okay. Then we have a very full agenda. We warned you guys we might run a little late, but on the flip side, things might go really efficiently. I'm just going to turn this over for the new business item 5A. Peter, you take it from there, I assume?
I will take it from here. Yeah, let me
right.
share my screen here. Let me make sure I have the right one. All right. And then does everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Let me get it from a slideshow. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, members of the board and chair. We're here tonight to renew some contracts we have with our water rights attorney and water rights engineering support that we have annually. And we're right now on a mid-year cycle on this. Our intention is that after this last renewal that we get on an annual cycle. And so these are renewals to get us through the remainder of the year. So we're going to do this together. There's going to be 2 motions at the end of this for 2 different contracts, but essentially it's one's the engineering, one's the legal. So point of the 2 contracts is we get a lot of support from outside legal counsel and outside engineering support that's very specific to water rights. It's a very specific skill set. It's a very specific unique skill set that it's unreasonable for us to have this in-house. And so the city for many, many years has worked with outside legal counsel and outside engineering. And you can see some of the things that they help us with. It's mainly water rights portfolio related things. They protect our water rights portfolio with the growth in Colorado. The pressure on water systems is growing every year. And with that pressure is further exposure and vulnerability to our water rights if we're not paying attention. And so that's a lot of what they do is they track every water court case that's going on and make sure that Englewood is not injured by those cases. Also optimize the portfolio. And then we do a lot of work around supply and demand planning. So this is the raw water supply work. The 2 companies that we work with are Berg and Greenleaf and Martin and Wood. We've worked with them for many, many years. They have a significant amount of institutional experience, and they have knowledge of the city's water rights portfolio. And they have that history that goes back to the 90s as it relates to how our water rights have been managed and supported over the course of the last several years, which is important as new cases are brought to water court. That historical knowledge of why agreements were made or stipulations were made in particular court cases is important. And so they retain all that information and they continue to support us as new challenges or new water rights are sought by other parties. The current renewal I talked about is from July through December. There's future contracts we'll look to get on an annual cycle with January 1 through December 31. So expect to see another renewal towards the end of the year, probably around the December board meeting for approval. What we're planning to do between now and the end of December is, you can see this list here. It's strategic planning, it's demand analysis, capital planning, yield optimization, water quality analysis, a significant amount of just paying attention to the water court cases and diligence, and then also ongoing litigation activities that we're participating in right now. Our budget, the 21 to 22 contract for Martin and Wood was $350,000 and Berg Hill was $400,000. This 6-month remainder of this year is $225 for Martin and Wood and $350 for Berg Hill. Those are higher than half of the previous contracts because there are a couple specific things that they are working on that are one-off projects that are related to potential future water agreements and also potential litigation activities that don't recur on an annual basis. The last thing I wanted to mention was that online we do have Stephanie Ellis, who is one of our engineers who helps support the program as a whole, and so she's one of the main points of contact for our these two, and the engineer and the legal consultant, to help ensure that we're getting the work done that we need to get done. So I just wanted to welcome Stephanie. And so I'm going to stop sharing so we can, and so that's the end of my presentation.
We do have questions. Ty, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, Peter, thanks for the presentation.
Are you on mute or is that just on my end?
I hear you.
Can anyone else?
I can
hear
Try
you.
again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just
Right.
going to ask,
Go
you
ahead.
mentioned the in-house resources, it just being cost prohibitive. Have you looked at sharing of any of these resources with other utilities in kind of a similar situation? Or is that something you haven't explored?
So here's how we approach that. If there is a common project that multiple entities are interested in essentially forming alliance around, we will sometimes share resources across that specific project. So we've done this in the past on projects, I believe specifically with Denver Water in the past. The challenge with sharing more holistically across other organizations is that our portfolio is our portfolio, and we want to protect our portfolio. And there's a significant amount of confidential information in that portfolio that we don't necessarily want out among other entities. So the sharing opportunities are there when there's a common cause from a project perspective.
I guess I was referring to like a splitting in an in-house attorney with another utility. But
Oh, okay. That we have not evaluated. Again, I think the challenge is when, you know, if there's a knowledge of our portfolio and a knowledge of another entity's portfolios, there's only so many of these legal companies, and what they have is internal firewalls to ensure that the confidential information associated with one client does not get shared in a way that conflicts with a potential case with another client. And so I think if you had one person who is doing that on behalf of multiple agencies, I think it might work on really small portfolios, but we've got a pretty significant and complex one. So it's something we could probably look at in the future, but it's not something that we've looked at in terms of that model.
thanks.
All right, any other questions? I'm not seeing any other hands. All right, with that, I'll start with motion one. Can I get a motion to recommend that City Council approve by motion a professional service agreement renewal with Berg, Hill, Greenleaf, Ruscitti, LLP for outside legal representation for water rights support in the amount not to exceed $350,000?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second? Okay, perfect, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Wonderful. And we'll go on to motion two. Can I get a motion to recommend the City Council approve by motion a professional service agreement renewal with Martin and Wood Water Consultants for water resources engineering services in the amount not to exceed $225,000?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't ask last time. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, on
Thank
to 5C.
So I believe 5C is going to be Angela. Is Angela on?
I am. I think that's actually you.
Oh, is that me? 5C is a pro pipe sanitary sewer closed circuit television inspection.
Oh, okay, then yes, that is absolutely me. And I am very excited to be doing this presentation tonight. Let me pull that up. All right, so I am going to share my screen. Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Well, good evening. I will be presenting on the sanitary sewer closed circuit television project tonight. So the closed circuit television inspection, CCTV, is for our sanitary sewer system. We're going to be doing a full inspection of our sanitary sewer. It assesses the pipe condition, and it helps us strategically plan our annual sewer pipe rehabilitation program. The industry best practice is to do an inspection every 7 to 10 years on your sewer system. And there are some pictures of a typical camera getting lowered into a manhole, and then the camera actually inside the manhole, and it drives along the bottom of the sanitary sewer. And the sewer does not have to be completely devoid of water in order to get a view of what's going on. 5 contractors responded to our RFP, request for proposal. We actually selected ProPipe Inc. They had the best approach to complete the work, and they had the lowest bid. The table below shows all 5 contractors that submitted what their fee was, and includes a $50,000 traffic control cost for each of them. Are there any questions?
It doesn't appear so. Oh, here we have Jim. Go ahead.
I do have one. Do you know, as far as number of blocks or miles or whatever, how much they're going to cover each year?
That is a great question. Let me pull up the other piece of information that I have. So we are doing approximately 80 miles of sanitary sewer. That is the statistic that I have. I don't have how many blocks that is.
It's essentially the entire system.
See, it's the entire system, correct?
Well, I thought you did it every 7 to 10 years. So
Yes.
aren't you doing a 1/7 or a 10th of it? The total is 80 miles?
The total is 80 miles, and the intent is to do the entire system in 1 year, and then you repeat that every 7 to 10 years so that you get an accurate picture of how the sanitary sewer system is changing over the years. So I think anything less than 7, you don't actually get a lot of, let's say, deterioration or settlement that's more typical for the useful life of the sanitary sewer. Any more than 10 years, you may be missing some kind of defect that has deteriorated progressively that needs to be repaired, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
I understand. I was thinking you were dividing it up into
Oh,
7 to
yes.
or 10 years.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's once per every 7 to 10 year interval.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any further questions? Mayor Sierra?
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Director, can you remind me, we've done some of the CCTV in the past. How is this different from what we've done in the past? Is this just sanitary sewer instead of some of the other?
Great question. We have actually never done the entire system to my knowledge. We have done some problem areas whenever we've had an issue or someone has called because of a problem with the service connection. And then we've used ours, and then that's using our own CCTV equipment. And then we've also performed some videos of storm sewers for Public Works whenever they've also been having issues, but it's more of a troubleshooting technique that we've used to help out with problems instead of doing a comprehensive exam to help us with planning.
Okay.
Yeah, this is something that came out of the master plan, which was we needed to baseline our sanitary sewer to get a baseline sense of how the condition of the entire system. And so to do that with in-house resources, we just don't have the capacity or capability to dedicate the amount of resources to that. So that's why we're contracting this out one time, and then we'll be able to build off of that information.
Perfect. No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Director and Deputy Director.
Okay. All right, with that, can I get a motion to recommend that City Council approve by motion a contract for services with ProPipe Inc. for sanitary sewer closed circuit television inspection services in the amount of $413,012, with additional 10% staff managed contingency of $41,300 for a total project of $454,709.12.
I move to approve.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
There we go.
Wonderful. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Right?
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. On to 5D.
All right, and that
Angela
one
as
is,
well, I think, right?
that one is also me.
All right.
Let's see, so after you do CCTV, sometimes you end up doing CIPP. So let me pull up that presentation for you. Are you all seeing my presentation?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Well, this is our sanitary sewer pipeline rehabilitation presentation. So after you perform a closed circuit television condition assessment of a pipe, these are some pretty typical results that you would see, maybe not with this many problems, but you would get this view for what is wrong with the pipe. They give you an approximate footage from an upstream or downstream manhole. And then that would allow us to make a decision on whether or not we would be able to do a CIPP, which is a cured in place pipe repair, or if we would have to do a more extensive point repair. So the cured in place pipe is actually a mostly trenchless technology. The liner is actually inserted into a manhole, and then it kind of turns itself inside out through the length of a manhole to a manhole. It is a completely structural pipe, so that if the hose pipe, as you can see in this slide, were to go away, you would still have a full pipe that is structurally sound. After they do the CIPP liner insertion, there's another little tool that goes in and cuts out any service laterals that connect up to the sanitary sewer, and that is the extent of it. As you can see from this table, we have our nice little bid table for all of the items that were included in that bid. The bid was actually released in February of 2022. Granite Inliner was the low bidder at $415,550.55. And are there any questions?
All right, we have a few. I'm sorry, Mayor Sarah, is your hand still up, or do you have a fresh question?
No fresh question. I'll lower it.
Okay, Marjan and then Ty.
Thank you for taking my question. I was just wondering, so the thickness of these pipes, was I reading that last chart correctly? That is about 8 inches.
So the diameter of the pipe is 8 inches. So it's a somewhat smaller sanitary sewer. That's pretty typical for the size of sewers within Englewood. So that's the entirety of the hose pipe, not the thickness of the.
It's actually the size of the original pipe.
Correct. It's the size of the original pipe.
Okay, so when they insert this correction in there, will you? How much, I guess my question comes, doesn't that create resistance for the future, or how much of a temporary solution is this? Is this that, yes, is it like a Band-Aid, or is that going to cause more problem with the pipes before it because it creates blockage? Or can you please educate me with that?
Absolutely. So the picture that I'm showing right now shows it halfway complete. So and I love it that I'm pointing at my screen because no one else can see that, but the pipe will actually insert itself all the way so that there's no obstruction whatsoever in the hose pipe. And because it actually inserts a new pipe that is smoother, you actually get a better flow of the wastewater that goes through the pipe. And it is not a Band-Aid. It is actually a very good rehabilitation method, because that pipe will last for as long, if not longer, than what a typical plastic pipe installation would be. So it is a full-on repair that will last for probably longer than the hose pipe will.
Thank you. I appreciate
Welcome.
Ty?
I saw you had 2 bids. Was there any difference in the type of CIPP lining they use, or were they identical?
They were identical. So the project specification is written such that it's not like a open cut replacement where you could choose PVC or you could choose an HDPE pipe. It's the exact same pipe with the same thickness.
Any further questions? All right, I think we're good. Marjan, I'm sorry, do you have a new question or is your hand just
Yes,
still left up?
just a very fast question. Have you guys worked with this company before?
I have not worked with granite inliner. In situ form is kind of the old standard. When I was doing this 20 years ago, in situ form was kind of on the leading edge, and then I believe that their patents ran out, so then more people are able to do this. And so we did check into their qualifications, and in addition to low bid, they were a qualified contractor.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Wonderful. All right, can I get a motion to recommend that City Council approve by motion a contract for construction with Granite Inliner LLC for sanitary sewer pipeline rehabilitation services in the amount of $415,555.55, with an additional $40,000 of staff managed contingency for a total project authorization of $455,555.55.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, is there a second?
Yeah.
I don't know, did we have 2 seconds there? That makes a fourth, but no. I seconded.
All right, thank you, Chuck. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
All right, I'm sorry, was there an opposition? Oh, it's just a late, was that let me make sure. Was there anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, 5E as we continue to work our way through the alphabet.
Okay, and then this one I believe is me again. Bear with me while I pull up the correct PowerPoint. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So this next presentation is for our 3 change orders on our emergency water line on-call contracts. We currently have 3 on-call emergency water line repair contracts. The requests for proposals were posted in November of last year. In January, we actually awarded the contracts to Brannan, CNL, and Global, and that is to extend through the December of 2022 contract terms. To date, as of, I believe it was just a couple days ago, so this is hot off the presses, we've had 42 emergency water line repairs from November to June. And we are approaching the very end of all of those contracts. So we're requesting this evening a change order to each contract for $40,000 that we would use only if needed until we're able to procure new contracts this fall. That would raise the total contract amount to $130,000 for each 3 of those contractors. As you can see from this wonderful example of a pipe that was broken, we actually took that out of a repair, I believe a couple months ago. Some of the pipe that is in our system is in bad shape. And when these breaks happen, sometimes the break itself is a little bit more catastrophic than others. This was actually a pretty substantial repair. I think the majority of the repairs are a little bit less dramatic than this. It's more of a pinhole leak, but just wanted to share that with you. And are there any questions?
Not seeing any hands. I'll ask one, Angela, is the inspection that we just discussed on the sewer side, do we do something similar on the water line side at some point?
We generally don't. Let's see, I believe that they're still working on the technology to line water lines. It's a bit different because it needs to be NSF approved because it's drinking water, and so it's a bit different of a process. Wastewater is just much simpler because you don't. There's a lot that happens between what goes in pipes to convey wastewater, and then what goes in rivers or what goes back into other systems to be treated. So most of the repairs that we would do on the water lines would not be the same method, and we do know that our system is aging, and we did a map of the water line breaks that we've had historically, and there's not pockets, they're kind of all over. So you really could almost pick any area in the city just by covering your eyes and throwing a dart at it, and it would make a big impact on the water system itself. So yeah.
But in
I think
terms
one
of
thing-
doing go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing to add to that is there are technologies out there that are more leak detection technologies that send probes through the system to help us determine if there is some undiscovered leak. We're still a ways away from doing that kind of full or assessment of our system, but that kind of technology, much like CCTV is a video way of determining the condition of the sewer pipe. There are different technologies. However, we're just not at that point right now.
And the leak
Okay.
detection systems themselves are generally for larger pipes where you don't have service connections. So that's a little bit more difficult to use in a distribution system.
That's a good point. I'm not seeing any other questions, so let's see. We'll do all three. Well, I'll still do these three motions one at a time. Motion one, move to recommend that City Council approve by motion change order number one with Brandon Construction for emergency on-call water line repair services in the amount of $40,000. Can I get a motion?
I move.
Second.
Okay, perfect. All further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion one carries. Repeat the process. Motion two, move to recommend that City Council approve by motion change order number one with CNL Water Solutions for emergency on-call water line repair services in the amount of $40,000. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I move.
All right, second. Perfect. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, opposed? Motion carries. Motion number three, you know where I'm going with this one. Move to recommend that City Council approve by motion change order number one with Global Underground Corp for emergency on-call water line repair services in the amount of $40,000. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. Asa, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Wonderful. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. That brings us to the letter H of the alphabet. Still with Angela.
And this is the last one until staff's choice. So we're getting there. So this next presentation. Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. The one time I don't ask, you guys will be looking at something very odd.
Yes.
So this is for an agreement for our distribution and collections inventory. The optimal source agreement with Core and Main is for wastewater system, water and wastewater system parts and equipment. We were actually able to secure Denver Water pricing through an agreement. They do a lot more business and get a lot more stuff. So we were able to get kind of a bulk discount via Denver Water. This includes hydrants, pipes, fittings, repair bands, kind of anything that we need in order to maintain and operate our system for both water and sanitary sewer. We decided this year to increase our inventory in order to mitigate increased pricing and then also back order. So this assists us with emergency preparedness and to help meet customer service expectations in a very timely manner. Our 2022 anticipated purchases is for $245,000. This includes maintaining a year's worth of inventory, which is probably a good 4 times more than we normally do. This anticipates increased development needs so that we're able to respond in a timely manner for new developments. And this addresses the increased need for repairs in an aging system. Are there any questions?
Okay, not seeing any. So can I get a motion to recommend that City Council approve by motion an order for purchase of goods and materials agreement with Core and Main for the purchase of distribution collection systems, parts, inventory, equipment, and safety apparatus in the amount not to exceed $245,000.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Perfect. Thank you. Any discussion? I'll just personally add, I think this makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
for all those reasons in terms of availability and inflation and everything else. So this is seems like a very good, solid, proactive move. With that, can I get all in favor? Say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. And, oh, we do get one more letter of the alphabet. So this one back to Peter, I believe, for 5I.
That is correct. Let me get it pulled up here. Bear with me a second. So, okay, and okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the last of our action items tonight is a project to do a complete assessment of the Allen Water Treatment Plant from a condition assessment perspective and an optimization perspective. And so at the time we did the master plan, we did about a 50,000 foot view of the system as a whole to get indicated prices that are more indications of what we expect the needs are at the facilities to help us understand what the overall complete need for the utility is. This is the next step of looking now down at a 1,000 foot level to really understand and dig into the specifics of sections of the plant, and not only look at it from a condition perspective, but also look at it from a optimization perspective. So one of the things that we're looking at is we have a number of assets that are past their useful life. I think this utility was really good at extending the useful life of things that were well past potential useful life. We're looking to identify those things, modernize them, and bring them into the 21st century in a lot of different ways. And so what we want to understand is the vulnerability, the risk, the priority, so that we can spend the capital on the Allen treatment plant in a way that addresses the highest risk need areas first, and then ultimately gets the plant modernized. You see the scope is generally the entire plant. I've met with the consultant, and we are also going to include the north and the south reservoir because from the optimization perspective, because they are such an integral part of the overall water flow and treatment through the plant process. So really it's the entire site is what they're going to look at. So it's things needing rehabilitation and ways to improve the system performance to address that larger issue of taste, odor, and hardness, to see if there's ways that we can optimize in plant as part of the treatment process to further improve those aspects of the water that we treat. You can see The project deliverable is essentially a roadmap for future capital improvements specific to the Allen treatment plant. We have a number of projects that are already underway in parallel that we know are necessary for improvement. This will provide a more comprehensive inventory of the projects that are necessary. The selection process, several consultants proposed on this project, and the selection committee evaluated the consultants and interviewed the top 4, ultimately landed on Brown and Caldwell, whose initial proposal was the lowest and also had the most relevant experience and the strongest approach to the project. Here's the timeline of how that occurred. The RFP was posted, went to notice, we're looking to do a notice to proceed sometime in the next month or so, and then project duration so that by the first quarter of 2023, we have a final 10-year CIP specific to the Allen treatment plant. So with that, I will open it up to any questions.
I'm not seeing any questions at this point, so I will ask for a motion to recommend that City Council approve by motion professional services agreement with Brown and Caldwell for condition assessment and process optimization services in the amount of $281,850 with an additional 10% staff managed contingency of $28,185 for a total project authorization of $310,035. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
Wonderful. Further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to new business. 6A.
Okay, that is me as well. So I will be here presenting the preliminary budget proposal for 2023 for the water fund and the sewer fund. And with me tonight is also Director DeAndre, who's the Public Works Director, who will be presenting the stormwater fund. So let me get my screen here so I get the right one. And make sure. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. So we have a number of slides here that are that'll provide a high-level overview of the budget requests for 2023. I think as an overall theme, what you'll see is that we are continuing to ramp up investment in the water and the sewer system, and addressing years of deferred maintenance, and that takes capital investment as well as staffing resources. And so those are the primary themes of what you're going to see through the budget. One other thing that we are experiencing this year that's different than years past is we've had a bit of a different inflation rate than what we've planned for in the past. And so we've worked to incorporate the changes on some specific items that have experienced a significant increase due to inflation into those budgets so that we don't deviate from our long-term financial plan, our 10-year financial plan that we've put together. We think we can do that for a year or two, but if we start to see a trend that significantly shifts our estimated costs when we built those financial plans, we're going to have to go back and reassess. But right now, we think we've been able to incorporate that both in the water and the sewer budget as well. So water fund, here's what we do. I'm not going to read it. If you have the slides, it's just basically an overview of what we do. This is a general overview of how it's structured. So you have engineering, business solutions, operations, and maintenance, and you can see all the services that are provided in those divisions. Our organizational structure, so we have 3 divisions. Myself as the Director of Utilities, I report this information through to the Water Sewer Board, ultimately to Council. And then you can see the makeup from a staffing perspective, there's 8 FTEs in business solutions, 8 FTEs in engineering, and 39 in operations and maintenance. And the last piece I put on this is one of my duties as the director of utilities is board president for eMRF. And so that's another area that myself and Deputy Director Stone invest some of our time to manage the eMRF properties to ensure that we're generating revenue off of those. You can see the connection to the city's strategic plan. It's generally sustainability, the safety and infrastructure. Our budget proposal, we looked at outsourced services. So some of the things that the key areas that we're highlighting this year is what do we actually outsource versus what we perform in-house. And what you can see is we have a blend of both. So there's a number of things that we perform as outsourced services. You can see them listed here. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but essentially when you take them all in totality, they result in approximately $2.5 million of outsourced, both professional and other types of services that we utilize to complement the resources that we have in-house. The capital project we talked about earlier a few months ago. Right now, nothing has really changed on that. I think the thing to keep in mind is that if you look between 2023 and 2027, it's got a capital program execution of $86 million. And so a lot of that is WIFIA funded projects. And you can see the ramping up of those capital projects in the next few years. I would anticipate that will slide out over the next few years because part of the challenge with executing capital projects is the staff to make sure that we execute and balancing that. The thing I want to make sure we don't do is that I don't want to under budget if we're in a position where we can actually execute a project. And so it's aggressive, however, just plan for it'll likely slide out over time. This is in our models. And so this is sustainable based on our financial models. You can see we have a number of proposed FTEs to continue to build out the in-house resources for the water and sewer fund. You can see a senior construction inspector that's geared largely towards executing that significant capital improvement program. We have a couple of utility system techs, and that's the distribution system. So we've restructured that area to put complete crews together so that we're not chasing issues. We're actually strategically addressing things in a more programmatic approach. And so by adding these last two utilities techs, we have 2 complete crews. And then we also have support staff to help bring connectivity to engineering and other aspects of asset management, things like that. And then ultimately 1 more plant operator. And when we get fully staffed on plant operators with this last plant operator, we have room to breathe where we're not in a situation where if we lose a staff member or someone goes on vacation or someone's out on a medical, where we're scrambling and paying overtime to staff the plant with 2 people 24 hours a day. So we've been building towards that. 1 more FT will allow us to get there. You can see how those are represented in 0.9, 0.7. That's because for those first 3, those are funded by the sewer fund as well. Some of the enhancements that we talked about, the last piece is the city is doing a compensation study. So we are budgeting for the reality that the Denver market from a staffing perspective is very competitive right now. And so we don't want to we want to make sure that we retain our top talent. And in order to do that, we need to be consistent with the market for those positions. So the personnel enhancements is just under 500,000, and then contractual, not capital, is about 1.2 million. Those are those other things that I talked about: chemicals, energy, things like that are increases over the typical normal inflationary increase. So more information on the personnel. You can see what that entails. You can also see some of the other things on the commodities. So contracted services, machinery, things like that. This is what it means from a rate perspective. This is consistent with our plan that we put together a few years ago. So 4.5% is the strategy for predictable rate increases to continue to invest in the water system. The connection fee, we use the ENR construction record to construction cost index on that, and it's 3.25% this year, which is a little bit higher than we planned for, but we're maintaining consistency with that. And then ultimately, this is the on year where we increase the capital investment fee from 15 to 16, so we increase it by $1. If you remember in the financial plan, every 2 years we increase that capital investment fee by $1. The one caveat I'll add to all of this is with the new reality as it relates to inflation, we again believe that this is sustainable for a period of time unless there's a fundamental reset in costs that we have to go back and reevaluate our financial plans. We also get a lot of support from other departments, and so this is just a summary of where we get support from the city manager's office, IT, city attorney's office. There's a significant amount of internal support. Future year, you can see these are things we've talked about. The last piece we added this year was fiscal responsibility and transparency, and so this is really making sure that we're spending the WIFIA funding appropriately. We've done a lot of work to stabilize the finances for water and sewer, and we want to ensure that now that we have that stability, that we're executing on what the needs are. So that is a quick overview of the water fund. We can pause for questions if you'd like, or we can go through all three and pause for questions at the end.
I'd like to do all, if no objection from the board, I'd like to get them all on the table first.
Okay, I will keep going. So the sewer fund, a little bit quicker. You see it's the same overview, generally the same types of work. It's just instead of water related, it's sewer related. Same structure from utilities as a whole. So a number of these staff are split between water and sewer so that we charge them differently to the enterprise funds. You can see this is more about protection of water resources, protection of our clean water resources out in the environment. Our budget proposal for outsourced services, you can see the locating services was a shift we made this year to utilizing USIC, which is very common across the Front Range. You can also see some of the other things that we'll be incorporating relative to, there are some compliance and support requirements for WIFIA since it is federal funding. And then a number of the other things are just typical services we provide because we provide billing services. You see the professional engineering, which is essentially the hydraulic modeling work, the CCTV that we talked about, and some flow monitoring, totals $734,000. That's the outside contracted. The capital, with the exception of ongoing investment in sewer pipe and manholes, we have two major things. One is the Hamden Improvements Project, and then the major thing is the 50% contribution that the city of Englewood provides for SPR, and that's at just under $7.3 million. This is for the sewer. We have additional staffing requests, and so you can see the top three are ones that we spoke about before that are shared between water and sewer. The bottom three, those are new positions if we move forward with connector district monthly billing. So there has been expressed interest from some of the districts, the most significant of which is Southgate. That district manager has expressed to us a desire to move away from annual billing, which is what we do today, to move to monthly billing. So that will move from those connector districts getting billed once a year to getting billed 12 times a year. So conservatively, we think that 3 FTEs is generally what that would take to get that implemented in a stable form. If we don't move forward with monthly billing for connector districts, those 3 FTEs we would not expand with. So it's only driven by that change if we do move forward with that. And like I said, there has been interest expressed by the connector districts. You can see the compensation study, that's the sewer proportion of the compensation study contribution. Personnel enhancements and contractual totals about $1 million. You can see what those are, the FTEs that we talked about, and then the non-CIP things that we're investing in to ensure that we ramp up the ongoing maintenance of the systems. From a revenue perspective, you can see what it means for revenue. So we stick with the 4.5% like we've talked about according to the model. The outside, you can see the changes in the sewer rates. That was based on the evaluation we did last year. So the outside sewer rate goes from 401 to 419. The inside sewer rate, inside treatment, city treatment only is 264, and that moves to 276. Inside sewer rates for treatment and collection moves from 343 to 358, and then the connection fee follows the same path as the water fund. Similar interdepartmental support, and then future considerations is staffing, asset management, and renewal, and then the ongoing South Platte renewal funding, renew funding, which is the most significant line item of the sewer fund as a whole. So that is the sewer fund. I am going to turn this over to Director DeAndre to talk about the stormwater fund.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Good evening, everybody. So my slides look very similar to the water and sanitary sewer. So we'll walk through those and be able to answer any questions. So again, the Stormwater Division is a part of the Public Works Department, as opposed to the water and sanitary sewer, which are part of the Utilities Department. Our overall mission is to ensure a high quality of life, economic vitality, and a uniquely desirable community through delivery of quality projects, programs, and services. And that really speaks to stormwater in that this is a critical function. And as you'll see, similar again to water and sanitary sewer, our focus is on deferred maintenance, taking care of that. Really, it's been a number of years and we've really gotten back in step, as well as capital investment and then the funding to support that. So overall, we have 6.25 FTEs identified within the Stormwater Division, including 1 program manager. Many of these positions are currently not filled. So we lost our program manager in April, and it's just been a really hard environment to try and hire for any of these positions. So as I mentioned, so we're focused on 4 main areas within stormwater: system maintenance and repair, planning and prioritization, which is basically planning for the improvements in the program work that we need to do. We did complete the first ever stormwater master plan in 2019, and we also completed a rate study in 2019. So that speaks to the program funding. And so since that time, we have been carrying out basically that direction within the master plan and the rate study. So the proposed budget is really focused on, again, we haven't had a lot of, we don't anticipate a lot of increases from 2022. We have not been able to expend as much money as we anticipated. So we're keeping things relatively flat. You can see there the one line item in capital is actually going to go down. We aren't going to be doing quite a bit of work starting yet this year with our South Englewood flood reduction project that will kick off yet this year, as well as some of the work that's already going on in the Broadway and Acoma areas. And then next year we'll be focused on some other projects, but not quite as capital intensive. So overall, you see a 17% reduction there. Our professional services are focused on the engineering side of things, so designing our projects, and then system repairs. So we continue to have, similar to what Angela talked about and with one of her earlier contracts, similarly, we go out for those services to identify needed repairs within the system. We have been doing a lot of that televising work in-house, but we may also need to go out and do that through a contract as well. just given our state of the inability to hire people for those positions. We are planning to purchase some new software that will help us with our MS4 program compliance. This is the stormwater program where that is administered by the city. It's a state permit where the local community has to oversee that. So it's called MS4, but it's basically about stormwater regulation, maintenance within the entire city. And so that's for both private and private development and public facilities and infrastructure as well. So the software will really help us focus on what we're doing in terms of complying with all elements of that permit. Capital projects. So again, I talked about that. You can see it's going down there to about 7 million is what we anticipate in 2023. And the majority of that is going to be focused on what we're calling, it's listed as the hospital project, but also refers to the Old Hampton project. And that's a project that's being done in conjunction with water and sanitary sewer. We will basically replace or rehabilitate all three of those utilities at the same time. We're going through that design process right now in 2022, hoping to wrap up those plans probably late fall, early winter of this year so that we can bid it out and then start work probably next spring on all three aspects of that. So there you can see that's about roughly almost half. Then we also will be doing another phase of the South Acoma project, which is in and around Acoma and Broadway, also referred to as S3C and S4. So we do have a couple of enhancements. I mentioned already about the stormwater compliance software, but we will be also adding another stormwater project engineer. So in keeping with the master plan recommendations, we are seeing a significant amount of project work that our existing staff just can't handle. And so we are proposing to add one additional position that was planned through the rate study and back through the rate increases. So we do think that we can manage these increases through the planned rate increases. And finally, I think there's a revenue slide. Oh, here it just talks about the two enhancements. And then, yeah, the revenue. So again, we did a rate study, and in keeping with that, exactly as what was proposed, we're proposing to increase our rates from $43.74 a quarter to $57.74 a quarter. So a $14 increase for a quarterly rate, and which we anticipate generating just over $1 million of additional revenue. Future year considerations. So our initial take was to do what we called in the Stormwater Master Plan S1 and S2, all of S3, S4, and the hospital project or Old Hampton. So in future years, we're looking what do we do next? How do we do have a prioritized list of projects within the master plan. And so then it's talking about the timing and the funding for those, especially given that we've recently gotten some pretty good rates for some loans that we've taken out. And we also are pursuing some different grants. So that will help us kind of get the next round of capital projects lined up. So with that, I think we're done, and we'll open it up to questions.
All right. Do we have any questions? All right, Marjan?
I was wondering, the 3,100,000 that was dedicated to the Old Hampton project, is that something that is compensated by the hospital, or is that just lay on the shoulder of the residents of the Englewood?
The hospitals do pay their stormwater rates similar to any other property owner within the city. We just called it the old hospital or the hospital project because it runs directly adjacent to Swedish and Craig. So I think that's just in the name, but they contribute to the rates similar to any other private development or private property within the city.
And additionally on that project, there's $4.2 million of ARPA funding that's being dedicated. I think it's 4.2, right? Is that what we, or
yes.
3.7? 3.7.
Mm-hmm.
$3.7 million of ARPA funding that came to the city as part of COVID that we have dedicated to that project, which will help offset the cost to the ratepayers.
Thank you so much, Peter. We appreciate that.
Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Director DeAndrea, and I could open this up just to Director Van Rye as well, but regarding the open positions, how would you classify it in terms of just, not sure, I'm trying to figure out how to word it. What is the risk to the city with all the open positions? Whether it's level of service or just completion of projects. Obviously, this is something that we're seeing across all municipal, state, federal level where we're not getting the workers we need. We're obviously fighting with private companies, but how dire of a situation is it?
Yeah, I guess, so what we're doing, I guess, is we're pivoting. And instead of trying to deliver those projects and services in-house, we're doing that with more of consulting firms or outside companies. Somebody still obviously has to put the bids together, oversee those contracts. But we're focused on that so that we can continue to hopefully provide those same levels of service. But I can tell you we are scaling back on some of our work, such as the televising and cleaning of our storm sewer pipes, just simply because we don't have the staff in place. So we are going to be doing that project still this year in a portion of town, but probably not to the degree that we anticipated. That's one example. So I think that's, I don't know if it's necessarily dire, but it's certainly what we anticipated. We will likely not meet this year. And I'll let Peter chime in as well.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it is we will contract more out, which when you contract out some of these services, they end up costing more money than in-house. So we try to balance a good core in-house staffing level with the contracted out services, and when we're running under on the in-house resources and we need to provide the service, that's where, much like the 3 change orders you saw tonight for the line breaks, that's an example of where we're spending more with contractors now, a lot because we have open positions that we've been building. I think the other most significant area that I touched on is capital plan execution. It is hard to execute on $85 million worth of work over 5 years without project managers and program managers and people in-house to manage the consultants and contractors and permits and finances, all those kinds of things that go along with those significant projects. So we're moving them forward. If we're fully staffed, I think we'd be in a position where we could move them forward even faster. But because we're lacking in some of the key staffing areas, with the departure of the Deputy Director of Engineering and Utilities, that really sets us back in terms of the strategic program implementation. We're moving projects forward, but really getting those key positions filled is important. And I had a recruitment that I was pretty confident was going to come take the position, and ultimately they turned the position down and stayed with their current organization because we weren't competitive enough to pry them away from their current organization. So it's a challenge out there right now. It really is.
Thank you, directors.
Especially for engineers, I would say, especially that project management, those with project management skills, and that probably 8 to 10 years of experience, very hard to come by.
Yep.
I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Jim and then Joe.
My questions are for Director Van Rye, and they kind of go to the purchases, that the long-term purchases or the year's worth. Earlier this year, we had ordered, I think it was a year's worth of projected year's worth of meters, new meters. Have we got those delivered yet from Denver?
I am going to check in with Deputy Director Goodman to see if she has an update on whether we've received that inventory yet, if she's there. Thank you.
I am. Can you repeat that question, please?
The question was, earlier this year, we placed an order for, I believe it was a year's worth of residential, I think 3/4 inch meters and some other items. And I think we are using the Denver contract or whatever. And I'm wondering if we have received those meters yet. I know there was at least one contractor in town that had completed a townhouse and he had meters on order, but from the start, when he ordered them to the finish where they're pouring concrete for the exterior garage, they still hadn't received meters. So no water.
Yeah, we have placed at least one order. I'm not sure the status or how many of those we received, but immediately upon approval, we did place an order. So yes.
So we've received them?
We
Is
have
my question.
received, we may have placed a portion of the order. I can get back to you with more specifics on that. Do you happen to know what the address was?
I can get you that address.
That would be great. Yeah, and I can get you some more detailed information on that. So.
Okay. My next question was on the residential flat rates. And I think John can probably confirm this too, that going back to when I was previously on council years and years ago, we had approximately 1,200 left to change over. And the last time I heard a number, it was 1,200 also. So I'm just wondering, how many do we really have and what is the process when there's a sale to make sure those are switched over?
So it is, I would say it's right now at probably about 1,250. And it's part of the sale process that there's a mandatory change out of the meter. The biggest challenge we're having with that right now is coordinating that with if it's a lead service line or not. Because if we're going to just cut into a lead service line, then that triggers a broader scope of work to actually replace that lead service line. So the reason why we haven't moved forward with the full 1,250 yet is because we're trying to get that coordinated from a policy perspective with the lead service line removal. In all likelihood, if it's on a flat rate meter, there's probably a strong likelihood that it's a lead service line as well. We don't know that for sure, but given that there was no meter originally installed on it, that's really something that we'll be bringing back to the Water and Sewer Board, because that adds complications to those projects, and which is why we haven't accelerated that 1,200 to getting it down to 0. Ultimately, that's our plan, but we need to understand how to address the lead service line piece.
Okay, and that was part of the loan too, right?
Yep, we have $19 million from the WIFIA loan that's dedicated to lead service line replacement.
Okay, those were my questions, and I will get an address for you.
Before we go to Joe, can I suggest we go and turn off the screen share so that
Oh, shoot, sorry.
more
Yep.
cameras on? No, it's okay.
Let me do that. Oh, shoot.
And Joe, yeah, Joe, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. And my questions for Director Van Rij as well. Regarding the connector districts that want to move to monthly billing, seeing as that adds 3 FTEs, are the connector districts fees going to pay for that, or is that something that's spread out across all the rate payers? So I mean, I'm just wondering, how does that impact Englewood citizens if people outside of Englewood are moving to a different type of billing and therefore increasing the staffing?
Yeah, so we actually incorporated that. We got that request as we were working on the connector district analysis, and so we incorporated those staffing requirements into that analysis. And the way we structured that analysis is at the end of a 5-year period, there's essentially a true up period. So if we never did utilize those staffing resources, then we look at the actuals and then make an adjustment to the rate moving forward for the next 5 5 years to true that up. And so the way the system was set up is every 5 years, we would look back to ensure that they're not being overcharged and we're not under collecting. But when we set up the models back last fall, we had an idea this was coming. And so we factored that into those rates that we charge now.
Okay, so it was built into how the rates are charged to the connector districts from the beginning.
Yeah, last fall we built this in. Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Of course. All right. Let's see, everyone. We're at the time we requested. I think we still need to run over. Peter, maybe I can just ask if there's anything as we roll through the rest of the agenda that might be able to be deferred. Let's do that. Like the consumer confidence report, is that one that can wait for next time?
Actually, I can make it really short. I just want to make sure people are aware of the information that's coming.
All right, go ahead.
So let me share my screen on this one. Okay, so really I'm going to cut to the chase on this one and go to the important piece, which is the consumer confidence report is something that we issue every year. We're required by the state to do this. And so we issue it in June of every year. It's got to be out by June 30th. And so it basically is an accounting, or it's a summary of the year prior, and there are elements that are required by CDPHE. In future years, we plan to turn this into a more formal annual report. A lot of water districts do it that way. We just haven't gotten there yet. But the main thing I want to talk about is the violations that you will all see in the CCR this year. That is a summary of what we experienced last year. Last year was a bit of a rough year from a regulatory perspective. So the first one is the E. coli. That was the thing in August. That was the boil order. You can, in the consumer confidence report, will provide explanation for what was done, how we've addressed it, all those kinds of things. The backflow prevention and cross connection, that's the one where we missed the percentage. We sent out the flyer. The storage tank rule was actually something that occurred early on last year. That was an inspection. Paperwork issue that was a low-level violation, but one that we had to document. Last year, there's a certificate of delivery that's required as part of the consumer confidence, and we didn't get that. It was just a paperwork oversight, but because of that, we have to report it. And then there was a point earlier this spring that there was a miscounting on the total number of samples that were required of a distribution system on a monthly basis, and we were one short because there was a misunderstanding that duplicate samples that we took counted when in actuality they didn't count for this part of the rule. So I just want to make sure everybody's got a heads up. So if you get questions from the community, these are things that we've addressed. The first two were the bigger ones. The last three are paperwork things that we are fixing.
Thank you. I'll give you discretion as well on the remaining staff choice.
Okay, so the WIFIA loan real quickly, we closed the water loan at 2.98. We closed the sewer line loan at 2.86. By closing the loan earlier than anticipated, Sarah calculated that we saved somewhere on the order of $800,000 by closing on May 26th as opposed to June 6th. So by accelerating that, we saved a fair amount of money in interest. That's it on WIFIA. Backflow prevention. The key on this one is we've hired a contractor to help us out with this. And so we are shifting away from notification from the city of Englewood to notification from a company called BSI. We are working through them to ensure that we are getting those things met. Item C is PFAS. This is brand new. So the EPA is potentially issuing an update to the health advisory for PFOS and PFOAs, which right now has a health advisory limit of 70 parts per trillion. And all indications are they are going to drop that to non-detect or 0. So our system, we've been testing since multiple times over the past several years, and our system tested with PFOA and PFOS at a combined level of 6. So that's 6 parts per trillion, which is far below their current standard of 70. However, all indications are they are going to issue a health advisory down to 0. So every water utility across the US is bracing for this right now, because it will create it could create a lot of questions from communities. So I wanted to, this is an emerging thing this week. We have not heard what they're ultimately going to set it at. However, all indications are that it's going to go to non-detect, which we are addressing PFOS and PFOA based on the 70 parts per trillion. If it goes to 6, then we have to further figure out how we're going to address it. So that was an important one. I wanted to make sure everybody had a heads up on. The other ones I think we can punt on, and if there's any other questions on what I've gone through quickly, otherwise I think we're good.
I know in a future session, I'd like to hear more about the PFAS stuff. I'm sure we'll be talking about it. Is there any other questions from the board that you'd really like to squeeze in tonight? I see no hands. Wonderful. Thank you all, staff, for the fast presentation. Board, thank you for enduring. This meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate
Good night,
it.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.